imagine someone put a gun to your head and said, I need you to do this right now. Alright, it might take you a long time, so I didn't bleach my eyebrows right here. I'm going to do plastic surgery for a while, for a little bit until I finish the PhD lectures, chapters of this, and after that, I'm going to do everything, right? Okay. Ready? Let's go. After the conclusions, differences, assumptions, and flaws in logical reasoning, I was trying to get a pen. If I get a pen, I can do it a lot easier. I got chopstick. Conclusion, evidence, assumptions, and flaws. Just to reiterate, yesterday I went over the ordering and grouping and the exclusions. The ordering and the grouping of questions are like this. You have, eight DJs are gonna play, right? The Tiesto has to go last. It has to go at the same time as Tiesto on stage, at a different stage on the main stage, right? The other seven can be at any of those stages or the third stage. Laidback Luke has to go before Tiesto. Marcus Souls has to go immediately after Laidback Luke, and Charlotte Dwight has to go at some point after Laidback Luke, but not immediately after. What of the following arrangements can be done? Now, you're not going to do every single one because it's going to take you forever. On the TAT, they had questions like this on the math section with the permutations, where there's 8 possible chances times 7 times 6. But those, I realized, those are going to give you, you're going to have repeats. You're going to have A and B orders and B and A orders in the same category. You don't want to do that. So it's a little bit different. I have to look up how to do that, but that's not important. What's important is that you don't want to use that. You don't want to use that. Okay, that person's doing something distracting. Okay, that's what they do. They know that I have a view of 180 degrees in the front and about 30 degrees over there, 30 degrees. So I can see what's happening over there and see what's happening over there. So they have something moving in all this time to distract me in different categories, okay, and side conversations and things they want me to focus on, and people's hair color and like faces and things like that. Right now they have a kid wearing a red shirt with his face down, ass up, and acting like a retard on a chair. They want me to see that because something moving. My eyes are gonna see that. Okay. 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 So, what else do I have? That's uploading. It should take 1 hour and 37 minutes. Let's just go on the Wi-Fi to do that. Okay, that's the ordering, that's the grouping. They have exclusions, like you have let's say you have 3 habitats and 5 animals that have to go into things, and you have the canoe, you have the zebra, you have the leopard, right? The zebra and the peacock must be together, and the leopard cannot be with the canoe, and you have habitats A, B, and C, and and C, you can only have 1 animal, and the other 2, you can have 2 animals each, right? And you have 7 possible animals. What are the possible orders, right? So you're gonna look at the answer choices. You're gonna eliminate ones that, okay, obviously, in C you can have the zebra and the peacock cannot be in C because C only has 1 spot. Okay, so and then right, so then you have another animal that can go in habitats A and C but not B, right? So diagrams. These diagrams are the ones that help you, right? So you have ordering, you have conclusions, then you have these contrapositives. If it rains, the floor is wet. If it does not rain, the floor is not wet. So you have a positive there, and you have positive here, positive. If this happens, that happens, that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. That could be negative. If it doesn't rain, the floor is not wet. There are if-then statements. So then you have deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is like, okay, Chinese people have small eyes. Okay, Mike is Chinese. Mike has small eyes. Okay, that's deductive reasoning. But Chinese people have small eyes. Mike has big eyes. That is inductive reasoning because Mike had a bleoplasty. Okay, you can check on experiments, make experimental data and statistics. That counts as I don't think it's fair, but to call it inductive reasoning, but it's inductive reasoning. It's not based on, and they say the statistics don't actually prove anything. That's just strengthening your thing. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that time limit to that one down. Okay, so let's now read this. What else did we have to talk about? I think that discovered and talked about everything. You're gonna have reading comprehension ones. What I'm doing for the reading comprehension. I'm not even taking the test. I'm just doing this just to reading comprehension. Okay, what am I showing up for? Well, see, there's a Dunkin' Donuts ad that said had a special name of a drink, and that drink was pretty much giving misinformation and slander concerning the melanin concentration of my skin, right, in the cells of the dermal layer, not the epidermal, the dermal layer, where the melanin is. Okay, so now it's 8 minutes reviewing. So let's talk about. Let's do this. Logical reasoning questions come in various types, right, which require you to focus on different aspects of each argument. The most basic test involved in logical reasoning questions. Sorry, I have someone in the house in my head. Sorry. Right, is identifying the argument, conclusion to answer more questions. You first have to spot the conclusion and then figure out why the author reached that conclusion. There's a reason. Look at the question as a gift. Okay, because the logical reasoning questions are so much better than the other ones. Because if those things you gotta like draw a picture, diagram, in 8 minutes you'll be doing it. Okay, and then after you'll be figuring out the other stuff. On the TAC they had questions like that look at one thing and a bunch of questions after that, like a cube counting. If you pour like paint on like all these cubes, like which one has 5 sides painted, which one has 3 sides painted, you're assuming that the side below the 5 side painted is supporting it, even though you can't see it. Right? Even if it's like you see a pillow over here, pillow over here, pillow over here. If you're looking at the first pillow, you don't see everything in the second pillow, but you maybe see the top cube. You're assuming there's a cube under it that has 4 sides, 4 sides, 4 sides. Right? Going there. Right? I can do that like that. Like 5 sides, 5 sides, 5 sides, 3 sides, 3 sides, 2 sides. Right? I can do it so fast in my head. Like, it's like awesome. I do it right now for banjing in my head. I make those questions up. Alright, most basic stats involved in life. So I would say being a lawyer is a step ahead of being smart as a doctor and a trader. Right? Trading is like real estate, but it depends if you're a licensed stockbroker. You just have to know those things. Just because you're a stockbroker does not mean that you know how to trade and manipulate the market. It just knows that you know the rules between broker dealer. You know what the thing is between buying and selling a security. You know what equity is, annuity is. You know what a fiduciary is. Over the counter is. I worked at Wells Fargo, so I kind of know those things. But it has nothing to do with manipulating the market, like making it go up and down, and something like that. So basically pump and dumps, and not needing a whole team of people to do market manipulation, doing it yourself, knowing how the market actually works. Right? That's why Bill Gates knows who I am. All right. And Bloomberg and anyone big on Wall Street. And all big tech. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just like my life is a mess because of all that. So, right. Be careful who you show off to. Right. One of my bad habits before was going up to the biggest guy in the room who knows the best and like showing off to him. You're not supposed to do that. If you saw that book, make friends and influence people. You're not supposed to go up to the biggest guy in the room and show off to him like, hey, Jeff Bezos, blah 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 blah, which I already did. So. Only explain the gift. Other logical reading questions are a bit more complicated. You must not only spot the conclusion, but also figure how the author used the evidence to support the conclusion either effectively or not so effectively. By the way, I went to the Alchemist's Kitchen. They're the ones that got me into like the wands and stuff like that and magic. So if you guys want to go to the Hogwarts of magic, you can go to the Alchemist's Kitchen, Crosby Street. This is where I have like the thing of see what they do. They're doing some. Okay, look at that. They had the second time they're doing it. They're having this person bend over and show this good. So underage. I'm not looking. Right? They're just doing that. They had this. Right? They're trying to make me look bad because like they're obviously having something moving. Your mind will look at anything moving. I'm showing you that. Okay. The most basic type of question is quickly. They had this child before that had his ass up, right? And he's doing something on a chair. I'm like, why is he doing that? I'm like, they didn't expect me to say that because they're just trying to make someone feel uncomfortable and weird, and they do things like this all the time. Right? Anything that moves, your mind's gonna pick up at it. Right? All right. They have big conversations all the time, and like, right. Would you guys like a French bulldog? Right? I had a girl talk to me for like 45 minutes in San Francisco one time over a French bulldog. Right? That was a sale. That was trying to sell me on something. I like refuse to get French bulldogs. I can't do that too much over here. Okay. And this happy. I'm not trying to say how it is. I'm just saying because like they do things and they try to manipulate people. And they do things because of kinesics, body language. Kinesics is body language, and up to you, they'll like have something close to your proximity, and that's what my major was about. It was about nonverbal communication. So my mind looks at anything that moves, look anywhere, yeah, pretty much that. They can make you look anywhere and make you look foolish by having things move, and that's how it is. In this chapter, you discover how to pose questions that ask you to spot conclusions, figure out how the author reaches a conclusion, question that asks you how to draw conclusions, set of premises. Okay, the premises are the support of the triangle. You have a triangle here, they support the argument, the premises, each one. The things I'm saying, they're supporting what I'm saying. The most basic conclusion type of questions simply require you to spot the conclusion you draw on your own. Right? The more complicated the assumption and logical thought question asks a bit of conclusion you draw on your own. The more complicated assumption and logical thought question asks you a bit more of you. Calm down. You first have to spot the conclusion, and then you figure out what facts the author assumed to reach the conclusion out. Point out the mistake an author made and find the evidence. That's one page. We have 8 pages to go. Okay. The Lsat tests your ability to identify. This will be like an hour video. Okay. The Lsat tests your ability to identify conclusions in 2 ways. One type presents a full argument with premises. Remember, premises supports the thing, and a conclusion. And they ask you to identify the statements that constitutes a conclusion, which will be the premises. Right. These questions are relatively easy. Classify each statement in the argument as either one that leads to a conclusion or one that contains the ultimate opinion and the result from the other statements. Right. When you draw these things out, it's like kind of like physics. You have to like draw the positive, which is negative, and draw arrows and box things out, circle words, identify things. You need to have paper. You have to identify the squares, and those things will give you a formula, your own formula. There's no general formula. Sort of formulas like the premises support that, the contrapositive and the positive here, positive there. So they're all sort of kind of formulas. Right. Most frequently, Lsat tests your ability of most logical question hypothesis from frequency of evidence. You choose the answer best conclusive information. Question asks you to draw conclusions. Premises worded like this. Which of the following is the most strongly supported for the information above? Most frequently, the Lsat tests your ability to draw conclusions, hypothesis, activity of premises of evidence. You choose an answer that best concludes the information. Question asks you to draw conclusions from premises worded like this. Which one of the following is most strongly supported by information? Last one. If the statements above are true, which of the following most strongly supported the basis of them? Right? All girls have big boobs. I don't know. Which of the following most likely completes this argument? Right? That was not a complete sentence. As you read through the premises, think of a logical conclusion on your own. Think through the answer choice to see whether one comes close to matching the one you thought up. By the way, if you get this red hat, Mr. Trump, President Trump knows you. Is that hat you got on Etsy? All right. This is the favorite one. I like getting more of them. As you reach the premises, think of a logical conclusion on your own. Then look through the answer choice to see what comes close matching up. It's the key to correctly answering the more question conclusion quiz. So look at the answer choice from the address and most information contained in the premises. Eliminate any choices that are off topic and incomplete and inconclusive address part of the information that may pull up hard boiled investigative answers. For example, look at the following premises. I do want to tell you about the Alchemist Kitchen, but I don't want to go too much information about it. I think I was just like 500 healthy adults are allowed to sleep no more than 5 hours a night for a month. Half of the group of the members were allowed 90-minute naps on the afternoon day. The remaining subjects were allowed no naps. Right? Throughout the month, the subjects' experiments were tested to determine the impact of sleep deprivation on the performance of standards. By the end of the month, the group that was not allowed to sleep suffered significant decline in performance, while the napping group suffered more moderate declines. Okay? The best conclusion for the premises after average was as follows. The best conclusion for these patients would have to address the following. The nightly sleep deprivation of healthy adults, the allowance of naps for half the study group, the small decline in performance of standard tasks for the group that took naps. Any conclusion that fails to address all 3 points isn't the best conclusions. I thought the first 2 were pretty important. I thought that they were going in decreasing order, so I probably thought that the last one was less. Napping helps reduce decline of performance caused by night sleep deprivation. You often see one plausible conclusion among the answer choices. The test is to identify the best choice. And don't fall for the trap of choosing the element that ever stays with the premises. Answer choice so I'm like telepathically communicating with someone at the same time and doing this sort of like having my head. So, but it's good. I'm getting better at that, right? But I was also astral projecting I had this dating app idea, astral projecting the things and seeing the things and trying to get the sound effects having that and right zooming in. I'm probably the best in I'm a developer, but I'm also a product designer too, because I just don't think about alright, a band has all these buttons. I kind of visualize the buttons and the actions of the buttons and ding 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 ding, the sound effects, right, of how it, and I click on it, and then the animation, right, and then the window, the modal, the JavaScript, right, what windows can open up, the active and the inactive states, the color, the border, the font, right. If there's an SVG, if there's an animation of the SVG, because you can do a lot of animations of SVG for specific containers, but I don't do that for everything, because then people think hey, you're just using SVGs, you can't really code some way using SVGs for some things. My logo has SVG because I don't want there's just I don't want my font to be that. So my logo is SVG. I did that for the Rubik's logo also. So I do that. Process pretty simple. Try the sample question and see for yourselves. Over the last 8 years, the Federal Reserve Bank has raised the prime interest rate by a quarter point more than 10 times. The bank raises rates on its board of governors fears that inflation, right, and low rates in the economy is slowing down, right? Which is the following is the most logical conclusion for this paragraph. Okay, I'm just I'm reading the first one, and it says should. Okay, let's read this question again. It's pretty simple. Try the sample question below. All right. Which over the last 8 years, okay, so a period of 8 years, right, the Federal Reserve Bank, an entity, has raised the prime interest rates by a quarter point, or more than 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, it's raised rate. So it looks like that, right? And the Board of Governors fears, right, that fears that the inflation, right, when things cost more money. Now you gotta pay $15 for gas, right? Inflation and low rates, that's economy slowing down, right? Which is the following is the most logical conclusion of the paragraph. The Federal Reserve was replaced by regional. I'm not sure they didn't speak about regional banks at all. So I'm just gonna first ones out. The Federal Reserve has raised the prime minister in recent years to try to control inflation. Okay. has raised the prime rate in recent years.
Yeah, because it's already.
And yes, so that Federal Reserve has raised prime rate to try to control inflation. That's true. The economy has entered a prolonged recession caused by. They did not talk about a prolonged anything. And monetary policy in the United States is no longer controlled by the Federal. Did not say that. Federal Reserve consistently raised prime rates over the last years. Yes, C and E are true.
So that just shows that the.
Sorry, B and E. No, I didn't say C. I said B. But B is the most complete statement. Right. Okay. Okay. Now, 1, 2, and this 3. This is almost at the third page. I have 5 more pages left, and we're done with this. Using your noggin to make inferences. Logical reasoning. Inference question asks you to make an inference with a series of statements. These questions may contain the word inference, but often ask you to choose the answer that is most strongly supported by the statements. When you make an inference for questions where like this, which of the following can... Okay, I wasn't thinking. Logical reasoning inference question asks you to make an inference from a series of statements. Okay? These questions may contain the word infer, but often ask you to choose the answer choice that's most strongly supported by the statements. Right? Supported by these statements. Right? So you make inferences for questions where like this. Which of the following can be properly inferred from the statements above? Okay? Okay. There you go. The Chinese people, they've been doing that everywhere. Elon Musk. Okay. With the following video, alright, they told me this girl before, like, I don't know, I don't want to talk about, like, specific ones, but, like, they got involved with Kathy because she's blonde, right, and now they don't want me with blondes, right, so they're showing me brunettes, and they're showing me Chinese people, they're showing me, bigger girls than I've ever been with, and then they'll show me skinnier girls that are brunette, right, they want me to get the blonde girl out of my head, so I have to write about this. This is a reason about Kathy. So I'm writing a book. I'm writing a lot of things, and it's definitely it looks good. And the way it looks good is the fact that I was dating someone that Donald Trump Jr. He was literally exact clone of her. That's his ex-wife, right? She's beautiful. So they had a problem with that. So, and Donald Trump went to the same school as I did, and Q4 elementary. He had the same 4th grade teacher I did, Miss Francis Sergi, who's no longer alive now. And she used to yell a lot and stuff. And I was dreading to having her in 4th grade because you had in Halloween you dressed up as like famous someone, and I was Thomas Edison, and I had to say the speech that I memorized, but I blanked out, and I was dreading that for 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Oh my God, Miss Hurdy coming in, they squeezing my cheeks in the lunchroom, and I'm like, Mom, I'm really afraid to have her. Right? And this is like rumors about Donald Trump and her. He was misbehaving. Like, I don't know. I'm not supposed to talk about it, but there's rumors in Q4s. Rage. Logical reasoning inference question asks you to make an inference from a series of statements. Each question may contain the word inference, but more asks you to choose the answer that's most strongly supported by the statements. So you may make inferences for questions where like these. Which of the following can be properly inferred from the statements above? Right. I'm not saying what he did because I'm trying to like say less and keep that in my head. Right. Because nobody actually spoke about it on paper. Under the statements above are true, which of the following statements must be true, which of the following is not so strongly supported by the consumer statements. Alright, the information provides more support for which of the following statements. The key to answering these questions, which of the following can be properly inferred? If the statements above are true, then which of the following must also be true? Right, which of the following is most likely supported by the consumer statements? Right, the information above provides the most important for the following statements. Okay. Again, you don't have to. If you want to do this to sue people, go ahead. You don't have to go to law school. There's a lot of this politics about like so a lot of people say if you don't go to the top 10 law schools, then top 5 law schools, then there's no point going to law school. Nikki's page might even open up a law school. There's a few law schools in California online. You don't even need LSATs. You just gotta go there, and it's like $5,000 a year. I think it's 4 years. I just don't feel like doing it. So I might not, but I think I want to make a law school at Nikki's page online, so you guys can pay me $5,000 a year, and I can get some money. The key to answering the question correctly is to remember that they usually ask you to make. It's really easy to go to law school right now since ChatGPT is helping you. Like, blah 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 blah. It's like that makes that part a lot easier, right? It's really easy to get smart these days with ChatGPT. But like the way I'm a one-man show, and Facebook doesn't need a lot of people. I feel that like Elon Musk is gonna like wipe out like half the globe and anyone these days, because we just don't need people. Right, not right now, so you'd be fine. But you guys want to work for me, you guys be safe, right? So I'm signing a net neutrality contract that is going to make sure that these tech companies, don't shoot missiles at each other. Because Facebook is there, they have Bezos is building robots, right? And Musk has a bunch of robots, and Mark Zuckerberg's doing these things in these buildings, or says he's doing these things, but blah 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 whatever. Gosh, you know what I'm saying? So I'm kidding. So what I'm saying is well, I don't know what's inside this budget, what not, what's going on, what's really going on. But it's like, it's alright. It's alright. He's doing things, I'm doing things. But what I'm saying is we should not do that. We should not do that because I'm smart, they're smart. This one can do that, everyone stays in line. I'm kind of doing everything. Like, I'm competing with Beatport and the music store and this and that, so I'm making sure the Nikki's page store has all their products in store. You can buy Amazon stuff, Apple stuff, Google stuff, Meta stuff out in the Nikki's page shop. Why am I doing that? Because of that. Because of net neutrality. Because we're all big tech companies. Like, I'm doing everything that all the dating sites, there's about 10 dating sites. I'm recreating everything that they're doing on the dating sites and making about 10 dating sites on this one, on this platform, on the server, right? All that. There might be adult sites too, and I'm only doing that just to get the IP addresses and the session IDs and see what they're into, and that's what they do. You want to own the internet? It's a bunch of papers, like a stack of papers, like that much. What you can see on the internet, it's a lot. There's a lot going on the internet, right? And it's a visible internet. It's a big bubble, and we want you to go in certain places. And this is what the .com bust was about. I know who's behind the .com bust. I know him very well, right? So. Okay, it's okay. I'm not outing Facebook or anything about their spending or Like, I actually projected myself in that meeting with everyone, with Jared Kushner and Sundar Pichai, and I was jokes, and I made a chocolate cake, and it was really made out of poop, and then it fell, and then I made it turn into chocolate because it fell, and some of it went right near the president. I just didn't want to be nice, so I made it. So I personally, in the actual projection, I ate the cake, showing everyone, look, it's cake, it's actual cake, it's not poop, right? So everyone had a bite, right? Jared Kushner I'm making him have a bite right now. He's like, wow, that's very delightful, right? Right, Kai Trump was over there and she's clapping. She's like, you're so funny, right? And a big bubble said, you're so funny, Lucas, right? It's adding to that astral projection. I can't say it didn't happen because I just made it happen just now. That ended that, more to that, right? But I'm being nice to Sundar Pichai right now because I just want him to be nice to me on YouTube. I used to call him names before. I toned it down, so he can be nice to me on YouTube. That's the reason. I'm using YouTube as a server. I'm going to be posting all these videos on LukeCastle.com. It's going to be a clothing line. It's a conservative clothing line like Abercrombie & Fitch and and Ralph Lauren polo. But it's about being a Renaissance man, and it's conservative, but it's also kind of like flashy at the same time, not too flashy, like Purple Label. But it's also like Emporio Armani, but it's like I wanted it to be like kind of like this and like that and like red and like you know, that style, that part of me, right? The Abercrombie style, the magical style, the kind of flashy style, the you know, that kind of style, like that, like West Hollywood. This is from Rubik's. Like I love my West Hollywood fanny pack. It's from Rubik's.com, but it's gonna be on Nikki's Page Shop, so it's like it's gonna be categorized as a Rubik's product. Okay, I'm gonna take a break after. I'm gonna read this quick. 1 hour. Logical reading and question make an inference on as follows. Statement each question may infer more than ask you. Blah blah blah. The key to answering question and answer. Remember how that they usually have. Make an inference question based on a paragraph statement rather than draw an overall conclusion based on all of them. So it was you to the answer to make plausible inferences. 1, 2, 3. 3 pages. Okay. About a connection between 1 and 2 statements, like the correct answer choices for the conclusion questions. The best answers for this type of question don't go beyond the scope of the information provided in the passage. So eliminate the questions of concern that are not specifically addressed by at least one of the statements. Okay, for example, in the last question that we're doing, is no longer controlled by the Federal Reserve, or the Federal the economy has entered a prolonged recession caused by Federal Reserve policies. Okay, but specifically, they did not say anything about regional banks. All right. Okay, that raises that is something that has nothing to do with this. So obviously, I eliminated that, and B was the best question, right? And D said something that was not in there at all. So you gotta look at when you look at questions, you have to see what information is there, what is on beyond the scope. Even if it's obvious, it did not say that it's not important, right? Not at all. You got it? Okay. All right. Television ratings are based on the number of overall viewers. All right. Let me just get my head focused. That random words out of there. All right. Mindfulness. Television ratings. I got a stopwatch playing, so I got 35 minutes on this. All right, 34 minutes over here. All right. Television ratings are based on the number of overall views, but the highest televisions do not always command the most advertising dollars. Many advertisers are willing to pay more for spots that run during television shows that attract a high proportion of males between the ages of 19 and 34. And for the ads running the highly rated shows do not attract as a large proportion of male aged 19 to 34. Ads that run during televised sporting events are more expensive than ads that running other programs. Sorry, that's distracting me since there's a stopwatch already going. Sorry, I was thinking about 2 stopwatches going at the same time. 3, one on over there. Stopwatch 34 minutes, and then there's another stopwatch going. That would throw me off. Okay. Sorry, that distracted me. Which of the following is the most supported by these statements? Advertising has done little research. Okay. Based on that, little research, I'm just taking that one out. Sports content are viewed by a greater proportion of males aged 19 to 4 than other prime network programs. Okay, they did not say sports programs are, most highly rated shows that do not attract as a large a proportion of males 19 to 34.
So you took anthropology COE.
Ads that run during televised sporting events are often more expensive, okay, than other type of programs. So the sports programs are obviously trying to distract me with the word anthropology. Right, let's throw a div at there so he can get distracted. Well, let's do anthropology. You're so smart. I don't care about anthropology right now. Okay, that can help me with a lawsuit, is it? Alright, the ability to reach a particular demographic is more important to the ability to reach a particular demographic is more important to many other. Okay. The ability to reach a
She's like, why did you get late?
the ability to reach a particular demographic.
Well, we'll leave it.
The ability to reach a particular demographic is more important to many advertisers. They didn't talk about specific demographics. They talked about this demographic. Okay, many advertisers, executives prefer sports. They didn't talk about prefer sports or anything like that. Ads that run during the most popular sports events are the most expensive of all ads. Okay. The last one. Wait.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. This should be E. Okay? Like some books say the wrong stuff to try to get you to do bad, like the Barron's DAT book, which I didn't even use as a doorstopper. But you're dealing with an inference question right now because the question asks for the most strongly supported answer based on the statements. Focus, by the way, I did get into dental school. I dropped out. Focus on the paragraph statements as you read. Then look through the answer choices to eliminate that opposite risk. Okay. The statements say nothing about advertising. Researchers don't make any judgments about specific advertising practice. You eliminate choice A immediately. Like choice D mentioned the program preferences advertisers, but none of the statements concerning which advertisers like to watch. No, that's not true. They said that ads that run during televised sporting events are often more expensive. Oh, more just expensive. Okay, you're assuming that prefer. Okay, so they never said anything about prefer. I got that one wrong. Okay. Alright. Choice D mentioned the program preferences of advertisers, but none of the statements concern what advertisers like to watch. You give it choice D. Choice E is wrong because the statements don't support the inference about the word consistent constitutes the specific ads. Ads running through the most popular sporting events are the most expensive of all ads. That's because sporting events or ads are often more expensive. It doesn't necessarily mean they're always the most expensive. That's because the sporting events ads are often more expensive. That doesn't mean they're always more expensive. It might be like something else, like a music festival that has even more expensive. That leaves you with choices B and C. And choice the ability to reach a particular demographic point. I think it's going to be B based on that. Also implies, okay, I got that wrong because choice C is best. Also implies some televised sporting events will have lower overall ratings even though they have higher advertising rates. Plus the statements don't indicate who watches televised sporting events, so you can't justify choice B. Right. Okay, so you're left with choice C, which provides an explanation of the information. A second sentence that states advertisers are more willing to pay more for lower rated shows than nevertheless viewed by a large portion between males 1934. The practice makes sense to advertise to young male consumers. Choice C is the best. Alright, that's fine. I got it wrong. Alright, things, but, yeah. Remember to check your outside knowledge about the subject about the door. Remember to check your outside knowledge about the subjects at the door. Exactly. Do not bring it with you. You may know the Super Bowl ads are most expensive ads, which may tempt you to pick choice E. Right? Using your own knowledge rather than what's expressly stated in the test questions will cause you to miss questions and someone with least knowledge may answer correctly. Okay. Last page. And I'm going to take a break and then I'm going to come back. Making an argument without assuming 1 or 2 points is nearly impossible. If you back up everything you say, it can take forever. And sometimes you have to assume something just for the sake of argument. Assumptions aren't necessarily bad. You do need to recognize them when they occur. Seeking assumptions when questions ask you to identify a premise that isn't present in the argument. For these types of questions, the author directly states a series of premises and provides a clear conclusion. But I'm getting into the conclusion that author assumes information. I like to read in front of the camera because it's just better. So I'm just going to write down what I'm going to say. Your job is to figure out what the author assumes to be true that doesn't state directly in drawing the conclusion. You guys know I don't want to do that. I get dopamine, and it's like I get limbic system. It's okay. I'm not. It's not taking away drugs. Like I'm saying, this is gonna get sales for tongue links. They fall out, and you can use that. I think you guys should listen to that. Why? Because it, like I think you should do it. I think you guys should do that. Why? Because you can be a tongue ring superhero. I don't think it matters. It's not everyone's going to get the tongue ring, right? So it only affects a few people, but if a few people start doing it, if like 30% more start people doing the tongue ring thing and being a tongue ring superhero, it's fine. They're still getting sold to Amazon for that, for all that stuff, okay? So you can buy tongue rings, and you guys can buy energy drinks at Amazon, right? I love Amazon, and their energy drinks, and Whole Foods, and their maca powder, and their blah 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 powder, and all that. Yeah. Why? Because they're cool. They pay me to say that? Not yet. I'm smoozing, so, If the argument says my house is full of bees, I need to call an exterminator, right? They're not going to say anything about that. It's fine. Because they'll say Amazon's going to sell 10 tongue rings, right? And those 20 tongue rings. Right. And how many people have 4.2 billion people in the world? Right. Let's just say like 20% of those people stop buying tongue rings. Okay. Let's just say 3%. 1% of 4.2 billion is how much? 10% of 4.2 billion, 420,000. So million. 420 million. All right. And then like okay. And then 45 million. So 45 million people on tongue rings. Congratulations, Bezos. Right. Here's $45 million. Alright, $45 million to you, and then you give me a little bit because I helped you get that. And then the people that buy tongue rings are more excited, like the deep broccoli wavelength. And because those people are more excited, those people are gonna do more things and stimulate the economy. Right? They love when I do plastic surgery on my body because like after plastic surgery, what I want to do? Eat. Right? Exactly. So, and people who do crunches also stimulate the economy. Right? After I finish chapter 8, 9, 10, I said I'm gonna do. I swear to God, pussy that I'm gonna do 7,000 crunches. So that's gonna happen too. And plastic surgery too, and bleach my hair, and bleach my eyebrows. I'm also getting a certificate in BB Glow, which is permanent makeup for the face. And so I'm making my face like better, like by my eyes, my skin, and things like that. I'm lightening my skin, but that's after I do that. I also got lip fillers, and myself and I will be doing my nose injections up here by myself by the Hyaluronic pen, which I'm certified in already. So, okay. What does that assume, lie, presume, depend on what are the derivatives? Usually indicates seeking assumptions, questions. Remember that these questions ask you look for the ideas author relies on, but does not say. If you seek assumptions, questions, look for this. That's the argument as stated by the author. These questions are other ways for granted because on which the argument depends on. If you need to identify what is, do so effectively. Choose the answer that links existing premises to that conclusion. If something that you're seeking always bears directly on the conclusion tied with the two more premises, when often with the last premise. And for the best answer contains information from both the last premise and the conclusion. Try on this one precise. Okay. Now what's this? 1, 2, and 3. Oh, I still have 3 more pages. Alright. Women receive fewer speeding tickets than men do. Women also have lower car insurance rates. It's clear that women are better drivers than men. Okay, let's read that again. Women receive fewer speeding tickets than men do. Why is that? Because they have big boobs and they have blonde hair and they say, officer. Right, I'm kidding. Women also have lower car insurance rates. It's clear that women are better drivers than men. On which of the following is an assumption on which the conclusion relies? It is clear that women are better drivers than men. Alright, that's what I think. Now let's read the answer choices, because you have to do that. Men drive cars more frequently than women do. The percentage of female drivers in the population is greater than the percentage of male drivers. You did not talk about that. Assumption. Which of the following assumptions rely on? Women do not receive more parking tickets than men do. In talking about that. Most men prefer sports cars to sedans. To not talk about having low car insurance will indicate that one's a better driver than those who have higher rates. Always read the question first because references assumptions. We bet you figure out pretty quickly that it's a seeking assumptions question. Next, read through the arguments. I'm gonna upload this on YouTube, and I'm gonna delete the video because I just can't have that storage. Next, read through the argument and try to figure out the assumptions. If you guys have to read something, read on camera. It'll be a lot better. I'm telling you. Next, read through the argument and try to figure out the assumption of the author making and reaching the conclusion that women are better drivers. The author moves from the premise to the conclusion pretty quickly that assumed that fewer speeding tickets and lower car insurance rates indicate better driving skills. The author assumed that men and women have equal driving experience because the evidence is about the number of ticketed men. I'm kidding. Women just drove the men easily have fewer tickets. Without knowing. Uses the information to examine. My grandma didn't drive too much. That was random. I was thinking about that. I'm like, my grandfather made him scared of driving. He said, "You suck at driving." She's like, "Okay," and then she drove, but she was always kind of like, not feeling comfortable on the road. Anyway, the premise that women have low car insurance rates support the conclusion that women are better drivers, so we assume that better drivers enjoy lower car insurance rates, so the answer must be choice E. E plus provides explanation of why more of receive more speeding tickets than leads inclusion women are better drivers, but it doesn't lead to conclude that women are better drivers, because B is wrong. The conclusion that women drivers is equal, but the conclusion women are better drivers isn't relying on the assumption that there are more women drivers. Choice C is irrelevant. The argument that uses speeding tickets or reaches conclusions. Choice D is reference sports car completely off base. Often the correct answer to the assumption question is one that links the premises directly to the conclusion. Finding flaws in the argument. 1, 2. Just it. The argument is convincing. In fact, many have not. So train of thought. Yeah. Most arguments have something wrong about it with them because you have to spot your opponent's better arguments, attack them, and have spot arguments in your own work so you can fix that. Most logical questions have flaws. The Lsat makers place the flaw that tests your ability to spot them. The ability more complicated question that simply asks you to draw a conclusion. Well, first find your conclusion, then try to figure out how your author reached it, and finally determine what's wrong with the reasoning process. Take a look at the examples of the spot on the questions. Who is the following most accurately describe the following argument? A reasoning question is flawed because it fails to recognize that, ... The argument is vulnerable to criticism with the following grounds. Okay, the reasoning of the argument is flawed because the argument fails to take into account that, ... Right, I can read fast, I can watch it on YouTube, I can watch it again, I can watch myself. I like to watch myself read. I learn faster than that. If I don't get something now, if I read too fast, I can play it again. The argument is questionable because it fails to consider. I used to do this when I was 4 years old. I used to read, "Hey little, the cat in the field has to run his spoon. Dude, Hickory dock attack with an attempt of the clock. Press button to the kid on TV. Okay. Oh shit, I think Magic Joe, he was on audio on MTV. What the king, what the MTV, MTV, so feel like the, so feel like it's Bill Clinton's cockle, which he did on the medium. Bill Clinton knows Sophia very well. Well, he knows me too. I know how to rap. I know the equation. I like just the words to use. I must use. I will full box of adverbs, adjectives, nouns. Illy with the hand with the kid with Billy with the hand. Last week's argument with the argument. I'm rapid. I don't know what to do with. I don't know what to do. I'm not even doing. I'm trying to sue people. I had to bring a carpenter astral projection this morning. I was speaking to her, but so nothing against her. So. Right. Occasionally, outside society finally is frequently the argument. Usually, the author describes a faulty conclusion by confusing suspicion in a necessary one. For example, an argument may fallacious conclude that because only girls wear pink and Jane's a girl, they must be wearing pink. Notice that in the first premise, they are all girls wear pink. The conclusion that Jane's wearing pink would be justified. The majority of finding the flawed questions, however, concern informal arguments are easy to answer when you're familiar with informal fallacies. Some of the informal fallacies commonly tested in Lsat are these. Fallacies are relevant because when they Okay, we have 10 minutes. Can we just finish this one page, 2 pages? We'll be done with this chapter, chapter 8. We're good.
You verbalize this a lot.
Fallacies of relevance occur when the conclusion isn't relevant to the premises offered to support it. Fallacies of relevance occur when the conclusion isn't relevant to the premises offered to support it. Okay, so they're not connected. An appeal of force specifies that you have better believe a conclusion is true, or you'll suffer harm.
Or maybe,
A bandwagon approach requires you to accept the conclusion because everyone else does. The red herring introduces a premise that has nothing to do with the argument and the basic conclusion on that irrelevant point. Right. And when I was like arguing about, well, he was on my side. Well, so he was okay. So we're arguing in English class why marijuana should be legal. I was on marijuana should be legal. Craig Heimwitz was on my side. Someone on the other side, they were saying, well, marijuana gives you gas. And Craig's like, so is beans. Right, so, alright, so marijuana is legal right now, so. Fallacy relevant to the ad hominem and attack opponent on the second person rather than conclusion of reasonability. Fallacy weakens induction when the premise don't adequately support the conclusion. Appeal to an authorized fallacies when the authority uses support a claim as an expert and argument subject. The hasty generalization occurs when the sample size is provided as the claim is inadequate. The hasty generalization occurs when the sample size provided with support isn't inadequate. Okay. 4 out of 5 dentists. Did you go up to only 4 dentists? Fallacy is ambiguity or clear when identifying meanings. Fallacy pursues assumption, often when someone claims a precedent unsubstantiated with truth. The circular reasoning occurs when the premise is used to support a conclusion and the conclusion itself. A complex question is presented in such a way that you can't answer without implicating yourself. A fallacy dichotomy occurs when an argument provides only 2 options because it provides evidence. They tried to mess with me so I can say things that sound stupid. I found a way to not look stupid by talking about things, and if they are hard to talk about, I assign them variables and I do things like that. So, like that. Draw simulations, draw like, what did people do to make you feel like the odd one out? Well, 10 people in the room were told information about this person and were told to touch the noses when that person walked in, okay? And they stopped doing that so not to get in trouble, so they started using heavy blush on their face, and Sephora was behind it, and like, like that. So many things were done. Complex questions is a question presented in such a way that you can't answer without implicating yourself. A false dichotomy occurs when an argument provides only 2 options, provides evidence to reject one of the options, and conclude that the other option is the only viable truth without recognizing that other options exist. Fallacies of analogy result from compare entities without sufficiently stimulative a comparison. That may also occur when one claims that because parts of a whole are a certain way, the whole is that way, or because the whole is a certain way, the parts of the individual are also that way. Okay, last page. We're going to read it really fast. We got 6 minutes left on the clock. Which is the informal fallacy? When you pose a question that asks you to find the flaw, such as the following example. Some southern towns have quaint downtown areas, and some southern towns have small colleges. Therefore, some southern towns with small colleges also have quaint downtown areas. Okay, right? The reasoning of this argument is flawed because the argument watch for these informal fallacies when you pose a question that asks you to find the flaw, which is the following example. Some southern towns have quaint downtown areas. Some southern towns have small colleges. Therefore, some southern towns with small colleges also have quaint downtown areas. The reasoning in this argument is flawed because the argument implies definite causal relations from a coincidence that could be explained in other ways. Contains a premise that cannot be true unless the conclusion is known to be true. It's like saying all people have, Chinese people have small eyes, right? And they never said, Mike is Chinese. Mike has small eyes, right? So, the reason of the argument is flawed because the argument contains a premise that cannot be true unless the conclusion draws to be known, right? I never seen Mike. I never seen a college. They never said what college. I don't know, right? that last thing was not mentioned. Employs the word quaint means two different things. I think it's B. Fails to acknowledge that one group has members in common with each of the other groups without other two groups knowing anything in common. Mistakes that town have. I think it's B. Okay, I got it wrong. Answer A. Just because I'm reading it doesn't mean I'm gonna get the right song every time. As your first step is to read the question. If it asks you to figure out what's wrong with the argument, read the argument. It concludes that because some southern towns have quaint downtown areas, they have quaint downtowns, and some have small colleges. Some have both. That sounds like a fallacy of analogy. The problem with the argument conclusion that it assumes overlap between the two sets. The southern towns have the quaint downtown areas, and the southern towns have small colleges that don't necessarily have to overlap. It's entirely possible that these two sets of towns aren't similar at all, and that no town has a quaint downtown and small college. Now read through the answers looking for the choice with the problem with the analogy. Choice A is wrong because no causal relationship is applied. Now read the go on the train. Right. Now read through the answer looking for the choice that question the problem with the analogy. Perfect score. Choice A is wrong because no causal relationship is implied. Choice B is wrong because no premise of the argument depends on the conclusion. In other words, the first statement can stand on its own without the conclusion. Okay. Choice C is wrong because the word quaint is used as true, but
because it forms from anterior to posterior, so top down.
The reason in the argument is flawed because the argument is used the same way logical describe downtown areas. Choice C is wrong because the word quaint is used multiple times to describe downtown areas. Choice D is correct because the argument does illogically propose that the one group, southern town, has members common, has two other small groups with the quaint downtown and inherent area. So does the latter group also members. Choice E is wrong because the argument doesn't confuse the two types of towns with each other. It keeps the thing while reaching erroneous conclusions. Choice D is the best answer. If the argument has words to use, and hand with a hand to hurt you, I don't want to hurt you, and I have to burst you. I take your head with a high hat, with a sandwich hat, with a hat cam, I put it in a sandwich bag, with a sandwich bag. I'm gonna cut your finger, I'll put it in my head, move my car. If the argument has words most instead of some, you can overlap. You could assume overlap. The statement most southern colleges have quaint downtowns, and most southern towns have colleges. Therefore, some southern towns have both would be perfectly acceptable. Alright, I'm ending this video right now. Have a great day. That was chapter 8.